Thank you so much, Jessica, for being on Real Love, Real Stories. I cannot wait for my audience to hear your story. But before I get too excited, let me have you introduce yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Jessica Lamartiniere. I'm married to a beautiful man. He's in the military, so I'm a military spouse. I have a beautiful 3-year-old, and right now I'm a vocational rehabilitation counselor. So I work with people with disabilities and help them find employment, specifically those with brain injuries.
I love that. Thank you for introducing yourself and salute you for being a military wife.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm excited to have you share your story. So maybe take us a little bit back. So we're talking about, I'm interested to hear kind of your journey, how that was in terms of love, how you found love at a really young age. So take us back a little bit and share your story from I think you were in high school, right?
I was in high school. And so when I was 15 years old, I met this guy. Actually, it was on the internet. And so we had started talking. And by the time I was 16 years old, I was head over heels in love with this man. And so what I didn't know at that time, though, was that he was significantly older than me. He had told me he was only about 3 years older than me at that time. So I was 15. He said he was 18.
I see.
Yeah, so I didn't learn the facts until later. But by that point, I was so far deep, and I was just like, it's okay, it doesn't matter type of thing. And
right.
Yeah.
So where were you? You said you were communicating online. What platform were you using?
Yeah, I think it was like Yahoo Messenger and MSN Messenger. It was like before Facebook came out and everything.
So, okay, you were communicating online, and he told you he was 3 years older, which was not the truth.
Not at all.
Yeah. So what happens next?
And so we continued to talk, and by 16, like I said, I was in love with him, and he actually came to Arizona. He was living in Louisiana at that time, and he came over to Arizona to meet me. And that's when I was like, are you really 18? Because there was just something about him that was not like an 18-year-old. He was much more mature. And he ended up confessing that he was 24, and that still wasn't the truth. And at that point, I was like, oh my goodness, you're 24. I don't know about this. You're much older than me in my head, but in actuality, he's like 20 years older than me. But I did not know that at that time. And it wasn't until maybe like another year, by the time I was 17, that I found out the real truth. But by then we had already talked about marriage and me moving to Louisiana when I graduated. And so my parents were pretty against us coming together. But I was pretty headstrong. And I think by 17, I got engaged to him. He came back. He proposed to me. He didn't ask my dad for my hand in marriage. And I said yes. But my dad was extremely upset. Said that if he ever came,
imagine, yeah,
it was pretty chaotic. But by the time I turned 18, we did get married. I think 3 days after I graduated, I got married to him and moved to Louisiana. I'm from Arizona, so I moved out there, and things were great initially. Maybe for the first, I'm gonna say for the first 6, 7, 8 months or so, it was really good. And then it became very bad.
Oh no, what was happening then?
So he had a really high level position with his job. So he was chief of Homeland Security, and he had just made a lot of claims like, being in a relationship with you is stopping me from excelling in my career. I can't get secret clearance because of our relationship, and just all these type of things. And he pretty much said, I don't want to be married to you anymore. You need to move out within the week. And I do love you, by the way, but I just need to pursue my employment. But what was really happening was that he was had an affair, and I had feelings. I knew, like, I kept asking him about this woman and who he was talking to, and he would just like shrug it off, or it became super private. And it was just, he started locking the door. He had his own office, so he'd lock the door, put a towel under the door, and have these conversations up until like 3 a.m. when it come to bed. And then when he did get in bed, he refused to touch me. He didn't want me to touch him. And it was just, and I was like, what's happening? Like, who
Right. Oh my God.
wrong? And he was like, no, it's my job. I get called any time of day. But honestly, it probably was a mixture. He was doing things with this job, but he definitely was also talking to this other girl. And so he did move me out. He pretty much said, hey, I'll pack up your things and you got to go. And I was devastated.
Yeah. So can I ask, was he saying that you being in a relationship with you was stopping him from, excelling in his job? Was it your age? What was the reason he was giving?
What? That is such a good question. So initially he said, so he actually, there's different levels of clearance. And so he had just secret clearance. So I want to clear that up. He had secret clearance, and he told me that he needed top secret clearance, but he couldn't get that because my family's background, and not that my family has a bad background, but like my uncle was a gang member. My brother he wasn't in a gang, but he talked to gang members, and he said, they did a background check of your family and it's stopping me. But in truth, I really think it had something to do when they found out my age, his job.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He has issues getting that secret clearance, top secret clearance.
I see. Okay. Well, thanks for clarifying that.
Absolutely. It's dramatic.
Yeah. So he packs, you said you pack, or he packs, and then you move out, and
I moved out, and by this point it is about a year into our marriage. So I moved out, and he told me to go back home to Arizona, and he told me to go back home, and I'll get you a plane ticket. You need to go back with your parents. We can't be together. They can't see us together. I need to get that top secret clearance, and we need to get a divorce. But I love you, he would say to me. So it's just,
oh my God. Yeah.
crazy type of situation. Yeah. What ended up happening, I did move back, and like I told you, my dad didn't accept the relationship, but he when I came home, he just embraced me in his arms and just loved on me, and like, baby, I knew this would happen, but I love you, and it's going to be all right. I was 19, by the way, when all this happened, and so that was really difficult. What I found out later is that he actually moved the other woman into the house.
Oh, okay. And do you know how old she was?
You know what? She was around his age. I believe they were high school sweethearts or something. So
okay.
yeah.
So it kind of worked out in whatever that he wanted to get the person of closer to his age or whatever.
Yeah. What ended up happening later on is that they broke up and all this stuff, and like he lied to me about her being there, and just it was just very that's like my life is really like a 2-hour or 3-hour movie.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I mean, and to have gone through that at such a young age in a state where, I don't know if you knew anybody there, and you had moved away from home.
Yeah.
I mean,
was really difficult.
Yeah. Okay. So, but we do know that, or at least I do know that, and you did talk about being married now.
Mm-hmm.
So, all that happened, which was unfortunate, and, life, sometimes you can't really avoid that. But so then how long did you take you from having gone through that to, to the time where you met your husband?
So I think, let's see, there was about 3 years until I met my now husband. And so there was a good 2 years of dealing with feelings of betrayal, rejection, hurt, anger, unforgiveness that I really had to work through. And what's funny is even when I met my husband and we married, I thought I was healed, but when you've gone through something traumatic, there's some triggers that I found out
Absolutely, yeah.
later on. But it was about 3 years before I met, after I separated from my ex,
Mm-hmm.
till my now husband. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had to go through a lot of like personal healing,
Yeah.
development, and all that to get to a point where you could trust, again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so how did you guys meet? How did you and your husband meet?
That is such a great question. And so, let's see. 2 years after I was separated from my ex, I went on a mission trip to Africa, and I
Okay.
just fell in love with the country. And I had decided by the time I graduated college that I was actually going to move to Africa. But when I started to tell people this, specifically like my mission pastor at the time in
Uh-huh.
Louisiana and my pastor here in Arizona, they were like, how about you check out Haiti first? I'm like, why do you say that? And they're like, I think you'll just like it. Go to Haiti. So instead of moving to Africa when I graduated college, I
Yeah.
actually made a trip to Haiti. My husband's Haitian, and I met him there.
Oh, cool.
And so I was only there for about 5 days, and I went on a mission trip to Haiti that year. And so he was the lead interpreter for the organization my church partnered with, and he was the project coordinator. And so he wasn't even our personal interpreter for that trip, but he was around. And one of the nights there, we just sat down and talked for a good bit and connected, and yeah, that's how it started. That's how we met.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love how you find love where you're doing some good work,
Yeah.
volunteering and going on a mission trip, and then you find love while you're doing that.
Yes, exactly. It was, I did not expect it. And initially I was, he tells me that he knew right away or soon after we met that I was to be his wife. But
Oh my God, that's so awesome.
I was more hesitant, and I wasn't actually, when I first met him, I knew he was special. There was something about him, the way he talked, the way he held himself, and this type of, I don't know, gentleness, but a strength, this authority. It was just something about him was really unique. And I knew it right away that he was special, but I wasn't thinking marriage type at the time. But he knew I was his wife as soon as he met.
Oh, I love that. Oh, wow. So you guys, you came back, you said you were there for 5 days. So obviously there was some long distance relationship
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yes, there is.
How was that going?
You know what? It's a little bit of a funny story. So as soon he wanted to connect on Facebook. So as soon as I got back to the United States, we connected on Facebook. And one of the first things he asked me was like, "Are you married or have you been married?" And I thought that was really funny. And I was like, "Well, I was actually still in the process of I had been separated for a long time, but I was actually in the process of divorcing, doing all that paperwork and everything." And when I told him that, he was like, "Are you kidding?" I'm like, "I am not." And he was like, "Oh my goodness." He later told me that he was like, "God, really? Is this my wife? Like going through this divorce and she's been through all this. Is she really my wife?" But in that time, I was talking to another guy actually
Hmm.
when I had met my husband. So I was kind of just talking to this other guy, and when I realized I shouldn't really be talking to them, this is not my future husband. I I was like in a place where I didn't want to really even talk to my now husband.
Right.
I was just still trying to be content in my life and not try to be fulfilled through relationships. And the thing is, I definitely wanted to be married again, and but faith is a huge aspect of my life, and I felt like God told me, if you want to be married again, you have to give up that desire to even be married. So during that year, I was trying to give up that desire to be married, but my my now husband constantly would like message me and be like, "Good morning, how are you doing today?"
Oh, this is on Facebook?
Yep, on Facebook. And then I think it was the first time we Skyped actually was on my birthday. And so, but there were times when I would be like, "Why are you trying to talk to me? I'm not trying to be in a relationship with nobody." And I was just kind of rough to him, even though he was
Uh-huh.
genuinely nice and sweet. And he would be saying things like, "I'm praying for you. God's telling me things about you. Hey, how's your day? Just want to see how you're doing. Let's catch up. I just want to be your friend." But I was like, I don't need a friend. I don't need anybody. It was just, I don't know. It was just a little rough or hardened.
Yeah. Well, you had gone through a lot.
Yeah, that's so true. But it took maybe a year before I finally got to a place where I was really content and just being single, and finally felt like I wasn't looking for any relationship and I was actually at peace. Because it kind of can be lonely when you go out to eat by yourself, go to the movie by yourself, go to sleep by yourself,
Right.
um, by yourself on a Friday night. So that was like my life for, it felt like, for years after I separated. And so I kind of could feel, every time I looked at a couple, I was like, oh, I can't wait to be married again. I miss that. But like
Right.
I finally got to that point where I was like, okay, I was so happy. And then at that time, me and my now husband weren't really talking that much. And but there was about 3 to 4 months where I was consistently content. I was so happy, so joyous, and just being single
Mhm.
that after about 3, 4 months, he contacted me and was like, "I know we haven't talked in a month or two, but I really think it's time to reconnect, and there's some things I want to tell you." And what's funny, Canoe, is that I had asked God to tell my husband, my future husband, that I was to be his wife. I wanted to personally hear that from him. And
Oh
so
my God.
when we reconnected, my husband, he goes by LG. He said, "So Jess, I want to tell you that, I've been telling you, I've been praying for you, but I've never told you what God has been telling me or the things I've seen or been praying about." I'm like, "Okay, what is it?" And he said, "Well, as soon as I met you, God told me you were my wife and that I am to love you and I'm to work alongside of you." And I was just
Oh,
flabbergasted.
wow.
Oh my goodness. And but I didn't know how to deal with that. And so I'm like, I need some time until I hear from God about that. And it took about a week. And at that week point, I felt like I heard God say, "Trust that I speak to him as much as I speak to you. You can trust me in this." And so that's when I finally let my guard down.
Oh my God.
And LG was everything I prayed for. So my ex-husband, he was kind of, I had wanted someone who was intelligent, witty, charming, funny. My ex had all those things, but he lacked integrity. Um, he was, yeah, he lacked integrity. He lied a lot, like a compulsive liar, and he was
Mhm.
deceptive and just kind of controlling. And so this next time, I started praying for a man who had integrity, who was loving and caring and a protector and a provider, and who pursued righteousness. And so when I finally opened up my heart to receive LG, oh my goodness, he was all those things. He's not perfect, but literally he's very, that integrity is so huge, because if someone does something wrong in a relationship, the integrity is being able to admit that. And so
Right.
he he's able to own up to his mistakes, something my ex could never do. In addition, Canoe, my ex-husband, when I initially met him, I was kind of attracted to him. And I mean, just over time talking, I fell in love. But with my now husband, I was attracted to him right away, pretty much. And so I love that God knows my heart. So
Oh my God, that's so beautiful.
thank
I just
you.
love how you, and you even talked about you opened your heart. to,
Mhm.
attract that love, and that you talk to God, like literally you let me know, and it happens exactly the way that you put it out to God, and I just, oh my God.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So I love hearing that, because um, our listeners, if somebody's out there listening who, has tried to find love, and has not been successful in finding love, and hearing your story, how you were praying about it, he was praying about it, and God answers prayers,
Yeah,
right?
he really does. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. So, what would you say to somebody? I mean, speaking of the listener, right? So, if somebody out there is looking for love and is maybe about to give up, and what would you say? I mean, based on what you went through in your life, what would be the piece of advice you would give to that person?
I would say don't give up. You're worthy of being loved. You are loved. And so, honestly, just hold out that hope. Learn to be content, but also you don't have to lose hope. You're not unlovable. You're not a rejection. You are someone who's worthy to be loved. And so just hold out hope.
Oh, I love that so much. And look at you. You're married to, and you got your beautiful family, and I just, that's very, this stories like this is what gives, me hope. It gives people hope. So I just love hearing that so much.
Thank you. Thank you. One interesting part that I've left out was that this time around, I did want my dad's approval. And so, um, from Haiti, people can't just come to Haiti to America without some type of visa or a green card or something like that. So they need to have a visa. And
Uh-huh.
so my husband didn't have a visa, so he couldn't just come to America. But so my dad decided to actually go to Haiti to meet him.
Oh,
And
he did.
yeah, and so my dad was like, I don't know about this. I prefer you guys court. You get to know their family. I don't really think in 3 days' time, because that was the length of my dad's trip, and
Uh-huh.
that I'll really be able to get to know him and know if he's your husband. I'm like, well, let's just give it a try. And so my dad went. And on the first day that my dad met LG, my husband, he was like, yeah, that's your husband. And I
Oh,
really,
wow.
yeah. And so I was like, okay, good. I finally have my dad's approval. I should have done that the first time, but my dad and mom have been married for 36 years. And my dad also knew right away that my mom was his wife. And so I trust my dad's wisdom. He's a good husband, he's a good father. So getting that approval was amazing. And my husband actually asked my dad for my hand in marriage, and then maybe a day or two later my husband actually proposed to me. So it was great.
Oh, I love that. I didn't realize that your dad took a special trip to go meet him. And
Mhm.
and that's very, very important to have your parents' approval, because the parents know better.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, for the most part, when you have a loving parent, father, mother, it's good to trust in their wisdom if you know that they loved you and they're not an abusive parent or something like that. And in addition, it was important for my father to meet my husband's family and see his background. And honestly, his family is highly respectful, kind, they give honor. It was just, they're similar to my family, even though they're in Haiti. So it was really great.
Oh, I just love that. It reminded me of my dad is late now, but there was a time that he came. I used to live in Oregon at the time, and I was
Mhm.
dating this guy from Zimbabwe who, I mean, I was just in love with this guy, but he was not a good person. And as a matter of fact, when my parents flew from Zimbabwe, they flew into Seattle. So I had to drive from Portland to Seattle to go pick them up. And it was supposed to be he and I driving to go pick them up. Well, I showed up at the airport myself because we had had a fight, and then we had
Mhm.
broken up at that time. So immediately my dad was like, well, where is he? Because all this time I told him, just a heads up, I'll be coming to the airport with my boyfriend. And,
Yeah.
um, anyways, so already they were like, we don't like this guy.
Yeah.
And then he came after 2 weeks of them being in the US. Finally, he came to say hi to them. And already my dad is like,
Mm-hmm.
this is not a good person. I mean, they just could kind of,
Tell.
they're very good at like knowing, and
Yeah.
but I was just head over heels with this guy, and I was like, no, I like him, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, so in my culture, a guy has to pay dowry to the like to my family. He would have had to pay lobola is what they call it. So my dad said to me, and actually to my uncle as well, and he said he was not going to accept anything that he was going to pay to
Wow.
marry me. And he
Yeah.
said, if you insist on marrying this guy, you're going to have to talk to your uncle and not me.
Wow.
I
Oh
don't want anything to do with this relationship, he said.
my.
And when you're, at least for me, I value my parents so much. And it sounds like same thing for you. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you don't have the blessing from your
Yeah.
parents, and they know better, it never goes well.
That's
Just like I think you said your dad was not approving of the first
yeah.
husband. And
Not
then,
at all.
right. And same thing with my dad. But, anyways, the guy ended up having to call my mom. Actually, he tried to talk to my dad. My dad was like, nope. This is after they went back to Zimbabwe. And he needed to apologize for what he had said and what he had done. And my dad was like, I am not talking to him. For whatever
Wow.
reason, he just did not like this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, long story short, it ended up that he was cheating on me.
Oh my goodness.
He is now actually, I think, married to the person that he was cheating on me with. Or maybe he was cheating on her with me. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
However
Yeah.
that was. But you are so right. I'm so happy to hear that your dad was, went to meet his family and he was like giving you thumbs up about him.
Exactly. And that was really important for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love that very much. So, yeah, so thank you. Thank you so very much for taking time and sharing your love story. I just love that it's a story that starts off with, you falling in love with a person who the marriage doesn't end so well.
Yeah.
And to you really getting to know yourself and taking a lot of time to heal, to you doing good work, volunteering, and end up meeting the love of your life.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Next week on next Friday, it will be 5 years we've been married. So thank you, Kennard.
Oh, well, happy early anniversary. And I'm so happy for you that you found love.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I am genuinely so happy that you made it to the end of this episode. Thank you so much. And please let people know that you are subscribed to this podcast. Show your love and support by sharing this episode on your social media platforms to your friends so that more and more people can listen to these stories, so that you can help me reach my downloads this goal that I have to quadruple the numbers for last year. And let me know what difference these episodes are making in your life. You can tag me, you can tag the podcast. And thank you again. I cannot wait to share the next episode with you.